6n is 3. Day 1, multiplying with decimals. So we're going to look at how multiplying with decimals is different than when we add and subtract with decimals. So first and foremost, we have to make sure that we understand how to multiply with multi-digit numbers. So if you struggle with that, I would strongly encourage that you go back and check out one of the lessons, 5NBT5, from my work if you want to brush up on how to use either the standard method or partial products or the area or box method for multiplication. If you're comfortable with your abilities there, then let's go ahead and keep going. All right, so when we multiply with decimals, we are going to have the example set up for us over here, and we're going to write out our steps, and then we're going to do one together. All right, so step number 1. First, we're going to line up our decimal, or line up our problem in our preferred method, ignoring the decimals. Now, I misspoke before. We are not lining up the decimals. You 100% do not line up those decimals. All right, you ignore them. So looking at my problem became, instead of 26 7/10 times 3/4, it became 267 times 34. I'm using the standard method here just for space and to show for the example, right? But once we go through that, you will see that we end up with an answer of 9,078. Now that is for 267 times 34. Let's take a look at how those decimals impact our answer. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to count the number of digits behind the decimal for both of the original numbers. So again, 26 7/10, you have the 7 that's behind the decimal, and then 3 4/10, you have the 4 that's behind the decimal. That gives you a total of 2 digits behind the decimal. Step 3, you're going to take that number that you found and you're going to place your decimal using it. So in your answer, you're going to start all the way to the right. So you're starting all the way over here. And then you're going to move your decimal that many places to the left. That many being the number that you got from step number 2. So step number 2 told me I had to move it 2 places because there were 2 digits after the decimal. All right, so then I move it 2 places to the left, which ends up giving me an answer of 90 78/100. It's quite a bit of difference from 9,000 to 90. That decimal makes a huge difference. Right? Notice, had we set it up like this and kept our decimals in there, a lot of times what we like to try and do is we like to try to bring that decimal straight down. So you would have found that you would have put your decimal right here, making it an answer of 907 8/10. Again, that decimal placement makes a big difference because it changes your number, and it doesn't change your number by like 1 or 2. It changes your number by times 10 every time. So it could change it by 100, 1,000, 10, 10,000. It makes quite a bit of difference. So let's go ahead and give these a shot ourselves. So we have 165 2/10, and we're going to multiply that by 9 7/10. I'm going to ignore the decimal, and I'm going to set up my problem as 1,652 times 97. I'm going to use the standard method here, and I'm going to start by doing 2 times 7 is 14, carry my 1. 5 times 7 is 35, plus that extra 1 is 6, carry the 3. 6 times 7 is 42. Add 3 more to that, so that's 45, carry the 4. 1 times 7 is 7, plus 4 is 11. I'm going to go through and I'm going to X out everything I'm done with, so I don't need the 7 anymore or those digits that I carried. But I do know that because I'm done with that place value, that I have to add a 0 in that column now, because there's no way I could get a number other than 0 in that column based on these new multiplications, this next multiplication. Okay, so now I have 9 times 2 is 18, carry the 1. 5 times 9 is 45, plus the extra 1 is 46. Carry the 4. 6 times 9 is 54, plus 4 more is 58. Carry the 5. 1 times 9 is 9, plus 5 is 14. So now I'm going to take those and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add them together. 4 plus 0 is 4. 6 plus 8 is 14. Carry the 1. 6 plus, well, 5 and 1 is 6, so 6 plus 6 is 12. Carry the 1. 8 plus 2 is 10. That works out nice. Carry the 1. 4 plus 1 is 6. And then I bring down the 1 because there's nothing to add to it. But now looking here, there are blank total decimal places. So again, there are 1, 2. So there are 2 total decimal places, which tells me I need to move my decimal 2 places. So starting all the way from the right, and I move it 1, 2 places to the left. So my answer for this problem would be 1,602 and 44 hundredths. Again, making sure we do not line up the decimals and we do not bring that decimal straight down. Now for these examples, we put the decimals, everything is tenths. All right, so what I'm actually going to do is for the next one, I'm going to say that we're going to move this. We're going to make this instead of 31 and 8/10, we are going to make this 3 and 18 hundredths. All right, so we're going to move that decimal. All right, so I have 3 and 18 hundredths times 4 and 5/10. I can even answer that question down here. So there are blank total decimal spaces. I can answer that right away if I want to, just as a reminder. Right, I have 1, 8, and 5. So there are 3 total places behind that decimal. So at the end, I have to move that answer 3 places. For now, I'm going to set this up as 318 times 45. And I'm actually going to set it up as partial products so you can see how we can do both. So here I have 8 times 5, and that gives me 40. 10 times 5, and that gives me 50. 300 times 5, and that gives me, so 3 times 5 is 15. Add those 2 zeros to the end, so that's 1,500. Okay, and I'm done with the 5 now, so now this is 40 down here. So here I have 8 times 40. 8 times 4 is 32. Add that 0 to the end. Now I have 10 times 40. 1 times 4 is 4. Tack on those 2 zeros. And then I have 300 times 40. 3 times 4 is 12. Tack on 1, 2, 3 zeros. My goodness, this is going to be quite a large number. All right, and then now I'm going to go through and I'm going to add each of those numbers together. Right, so I'm starting with 40 plus 50, and what I can do, the nice thing is I can move my numbers, so I can put the 12,000 up on top, and then I can put the 1,500 below that. So I can line it up. I can move my numbers around because I'm adding. And so I can put my numbers longest to shortest, so to speak, even probably greatest to least. All right, so then I have 400, I have 320, and then 50, and then 40. Woo! All right, so that first column is definitely 0. Then I have 5 plus 4, which is 9. Okay, plus 2 more is 11. Carry the 1. Then I have 5 plus 4 is 9. Plus 3 is 12. Plus 1 more is 13. Carry the 1. 2 plus 1 is 3. Plus 1 more is 4. And then I have nothing to add that 1 to. But now I'm not done. I have to move that decimal 3 places. So I'm going to start it over here on the farthest right-hand side, and I'm going to move it 1, 2, 3 spaces. So my answer here would be 14 and 310 thousandths. Now the other thing I can do is I can take that 0 off the end and leave it as 14 and 31 hundredths, and it means the same thing. Big thing here is remembering, do not line up your decimals, especially when you don't have the same number of decimals behind, or the same number of digits behind the decimal. And do not bring it straight down. Count that number of decimals first. So you're going to try this second problem on your own, and we'll check your answer when you come back to class. The other thing I would like you to do is to write a little reflection. So what did you learn? What are some of the really important things that you want to remember and take away from the lesson so you will have success with multiplying with decimals?